For my second textual artifact of the week, I'm going to be comparing Calvin and Hobbes, the comic, to fairy tales and Blancanieves, as well as Boy Snowbird. For those of you who don't know, which Calvin and Hobbes is a pretty popular comic, so I'd be surprised if you haven't at least heard of it. It focuses on a young adolescent boy named Calvin and his imaginary friend Hobbes. This was a pretty hard one to make relations with. Not as much to fairy tales. I couldn't make a whole lot of relation to Blancanieves or Boy Snowbird, which is why in the end I kind of talk about why I think it might be a little more prudent to strictly compare all of them to fairy tales in their own individual way, just because they're pretty different works. But I did notice the conventional stock characters. That aspect lies the same with Calvin and Hobbes as it does with fairy tales, because they're both really, fairy tales and comics are both really short works. And so adding character build-up and backstories, backgrounds, can kind of, one, confuse the reader and just take up space in the text. In the future, out of the two textual artifacts that I compared this week, I think the first one, Avatar: The Last Airbender, is my favorite, and I would definitely recommend using that work in the future when looking into how aspects of fairy tales or similar tropes can be found throughout many different works. I know it's not an actual literary form, although I think that there are books. I've never looked into that a whole lot, but there are a lot of relations in Avatar: The Last Airbender with fairy tales, more so than I think Calvin and Hobbes. But for the second one, I really just wanted to find something that seemingly didn't have anything in common with fairy tales. I mean, it's a comic strip, but that short nature really helps relate in the fact that the illustrator or the author isn't able to put any emphasis on the actual characters, and they just put the minimum amount of information they need to in order to get their point or joke across. So that's it.